Ho, ho, ho! Here's a festive warning that this episode contains some talk about Santa Claus that some girls and boys might not want to hear. On with the show, ho, ho!
Who in the world is Sir Christmas?
Are Santa's elves naughty or nice?
And is it for calling birds or for collie birds?
Today we'll deck the halls and stuff your stocking with some etymology magic. You'll love this Christmas episode of Words Unravelled.
Welcome to a festive Words Unravelled. I'm Rob Watts from the YouTube channel Rob Words.
And I'm Jess Ferris, author of the etymology books Once Upon a Word and Words from Hell. And today we are jingling all the way down this holiday-themed episode of this lovely podcast. I'm so excited.
I'm excited for this one. I always get a bit excited around this time of year, as many people do, of course. But, you know, when you get round to this time of year, the same old etymologies come up and you get asked the same old questions, which I always enjoy answering. But let's tell some of those stories today. And then, you know, when people ask us, we can just say, oh, yeah, we did an episode on that. Just go and watch it.
Perfect. I love this plan. Let's start with probably the most obvious word for this time of year. Shall we do Christmas?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it seems sort of obvious where the word Christmas comes from, but do explain.
It is Christ's Mass. In Old English, it was Christus Massa, which would be like the possessive of Christ's celebration or holiday. But some interesting dates worth noting in relation to this word. Starting in the 1500s, to Christmas was also used as a verb. That doesn't happen a lot over here. Do you Christmas as a verb?
I mean, I must have heard it once or twice. Yeah, we're actually Christmasing in the Alps this year.
Right. Now, Christmas trees have been around for a really long time as well, with the tradition of decorating trees with bits of metal featuring in the Roman celebration of Saturnalia, presumably in pagan holidays as well. And then we have records of people buying them for Christmas, like we do today, as early as the 1500s. And in fact, in Germany and France, they were so popular that the law limited people to having no more than one bush of more than 8 shoe lengths.
Christmas bush regulation. Nice.
Right.
That's a Christmas tree. Do you know what I'm interested by? You mentioned an Old English term for Christmas.
And there's another one. Mm.
Yeah, and there is another one, isn't there? One that's still with us, actually, but we don't use it quite as much. What's that?
That is Yule, correct?
It is, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Well, you know, it's the traditional name in the Nordic languages in particular, and it's still called Yule in lots of them. Yule in Swedish and Norwegian, Yule in Danish. Icelandic, which is the closest to Old Norse, calls it Jolin, and actually the Finnish also call it Joulu. I'm pronouncing all of these terribly, as you can imagine. But yeah, Yule is the Old English word for the festival at that time of year. And sometimes when we say Yule tide, the word tide there is an old relative of the word time and is related to the German Zeit and the Dutch tide as well.
That's darling. Did you also know that the word jolly is cognate with the word Yule?
I did not. That's fabulous.
Isn't it? It's from the old French jolif, but ultimately the same root is that same Germanic source. So to be festive, to be jolly is to also be Yuli.
Right. And it means to be pretty in French.
Exactly. Festive, merry, amorous, or pretty.
I mean, it really is just convenient that we've ended up with this jolly figure, Father Christmas, Santa Claus, as the emblem of this time of year.
We should get into him, shouldn't we? Like, visit Father Christmas?
Oh, yeah, we should do, because it's a bit of a controversial one. I don't know if you know about this in the UK.
Ooh, tell me.
Well, the name Santa Claus has really caught on over there, but there is still quite a great deal of resistance to that term in certain quarters, because it is considered an Americanism, and indeed, it is an Americanism.
Right.
We traditionally call Father Christmas in England.
That's also a little interesting, because the earliest records of like a Father Christmas type reference is from the 1400s, and he was called Sir Christmas.
Sir Christmas at your service.
This is a mid-1400s carol attributed to Richard Smart, rector of Plymtree, and it goes, Noel, 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 who is there that singeth so? I am here, Sir Christmas. Welcome, my lord, Sir Christmas. Welcome to us all.
That's gorgeous. And then Santa Claus, you should explain this one to me, because you think about it, it's a really, really strange term to have found its way into English.
That's right. So Santa Claus, as a name, dates back to the 1700s. So it's not new, but it is first found in the United States. And it is a contraction of the name St. Nicholas, probably via the Dutch name for him, which is Sinterklaas. It came to America thanks to Dutch-descended Americans inhabiting what is now New York, which is, the tip of Manhattan was originally called New Amsterdam for similar reasons. And indeed, the first few recorded instances of Santa Claus as an alternative for the personification of Christmas are found in New York-based publications. One of them, which is one of my favorites, is Salmagundi, which is the periodical that Washington Irving and his goofy friends started in New York City in the early 1800s to make fun of society in New York. And he writes, the noted St. Nicholas, vulgarly called Santa Claus, all one word, of all the saints in the calendar, the most venerated by true Hollanders and their unsophisticated descendants. Now, a lot of his work lovingly poked fun at Dutch-descended Americans living in New York, but he also very much embraced this aspect of American culture because all of his short stories, including like Rip Van Winkle, are descended from Dutch folk tales. He also called St. Nicholas the patron saint of New York in his parody work, The History of New York from the Beginning of the World to the End of the Dutch Dynasty.
We have talked before about how there are a lot of Dutch words that enter English in the United States rather than over here in Europe, which I think is kind of surprising.
It was New York's its successful process of creating culture around its heritage and everything at the time. A couple other names for Father Christmas and Santa Claus, there were many different variations of this person over the years. Like, I think it was from the 1400s to the 1600s or so. There were Yule ridings, where a man acting as an embodiment of Yule would carry cakes and meat around the street. In the Tudor and Stuart eras, there were mischievous Christmas men called Captain Christmas, the Christmas Lord, or Prince Christmas, who would preside over feasting and entertainment. And then in the 17th century, playwright Ben Jonson had a personification of Christmas who calls himself Old Gregory Christmas, with several sons, so he's a literal Father Christmas: misrule, carol, mince pie, gamble, post and pan, New Year's gift, mumming, wassail, and baby cake.
Sorry, those are the names of his sons?
His sons, yes.
Baby cake. And of course, Father Christmas reflects the French name for this Christmas man, Père Noël. Mm-hmm. Father Christmas, a similar sort of setup in lots of the Latinate languages. I call him Christmas man, and actually that's what the name for Father Christmas is here in Germany. This sort of present giver of Christmas is Weihnachtsmann.
Which is literally like Holy Night Man, right?
Yeah, it is. But there's all kinds of gift givers in German tradition, because you also have St. Nicholas, who is a separate person to Weihnachtsmann. And actually, the celebration of St. Nicholas is on the 6th of December. And that was traditionally, and particularly in southern parts of Germany and I suppose sort of Austria, that was traditionally sort of the really exciting day for kids when the gift giving was really given. It's now kind of just a warm up to Christmas, but it was, that was the big gift giving day. But there's another Christmas emblem, who is the Christkind, which is the Christ child, quite literally, or Christkindl. Kindle means not just kid, it means really little kid. Huh. But does Christkindl sound like anything to you?
Kris Kringle, probably.
Yes, and that is where Kris Kringle comes from. Yeah, it
Who is very much an adult.
Yeah, and also an American term. I mean, Kris Kringle, I'd never heard of Kris Kringle until it came up in an American movie.
That character is particularly, well, maybe not popularized, but certainly entered the public imagination even more with Miracle on 34th Street, right?
Yeah, because that was the name of the guy who is put on trial for claiming to be Santa Claus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what he's accused of? claiming to be Santa Claus?
His mental health is in question, basically. Because
okay.
he believes himself to be and or is Santa Claus.
Yeah, I understand. Why people questioned it. Very much on his side, anyway. We've got some more unusual Christmas figures over here in Europe. For example, in Finland, you have the joulupukki, which is the Christmas goat.
Oh, that's adorable. Do you dress up the goat? Is that...
No, so actually, joulupukki is a man nowadays. Yeah,
all right.
But originally, pre-Christian festivals sometimes involved dressing up as a goat. A goat was a kind of a representation of fertility. So you would get dressed up as a goat. And it's sort of a hangover from that their Father Christmas type figure is still called the Christmas goat. And that word puki, which means goat, is related to our word buck and the words bok and the word butcher, as we've discussed in other episodes, all these words that mean goat across European languages. And then in Russian, you have Ded Moroz, who is Father Frost, who gives out presents, not at Christmas, though, but on New Year's Eve instead.
Oh, that's kind of nice. I like that one.
Looks a lot like Father Christmas, though.
And are all of these, is the gift giving associated with all of these, does that date back to the original, like, St. Nicholas association with gift giving?
Yeah, well, some of them are St. Nicholas, some of them are figures that come from pre-Christian times, and others are just sort of separated from them. But you do have this figure of Nicholas, who was actually, I think St. Nicholas was actually Turkish, but you do have him popping up across all of these Christian traditions.
His shtick was that he would inherited a bunch of money from his parents when they died and gave it to the poor instead of hoarding it.
Oh, that was nice of him. Mm-hmm. It is a little bit confusing that we celebrate Saint Nicholas on a day that's supposed to be all about the birth of Jesus, isn't it? Why we sort of rope in this extra figure or multiple extra figures in other cultures. And some of that is because they needed someone to fill the void left by the pre-Christian traditions that did not involve this divine baby being born.
I mean, one of my favorite things about Christmas celebrations and practice is that they've always been this like zany hodgepodge of cultural traditions, and like over attributing them to one belief system over another is a little bit of an exercise in futility. It's always been like festive stuff. Let's go.
Oh, we're gonna get complaints, Jess.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, it's not that Christian, is it? Well,
it's medium Christian.
Do we get into the whole seasons thing, because it's not such a big thing in Britain to wish someone a seasons greeting or holiday greetings as well, which seems to be quite a big thing in America. You guys talk about the holidays. When we talk about the holidays,
you mean vacation,
England,
right?
We're talking about the summer. Yeah, we're not talking about this time of year. And is that to avoid using Christian references? What's that all about? I
think it's to make it's like an attempted inclusion, like any holy day that is being celebrated this time of year. That's what I'm wishing you a happy.
Yeah, because there are other ones that are being celebrated around the same time of year as well, right. Of course.
I do think it's interesting that like some people really get upset and concerned about the use of happy holidays when that's also quite a religious term. Literally speaking, it is a holy day. So given the many religious traditions that went into Christmas as a singular holiday, I think it's apt. So, I mean, I'm not upset one way or another. I just like Christmas parties.
Well, it better reflects the Weihnachten, the German name for Christmas, which is, as we mentioned, means sort of holy nights. So holy days or holy nights. We're all having a good time, whatever, hey? Keeping nice and warm while it's all cold outside. Can I talk about some foreign names for Christmas?
I would love that.
I mentioned Weihnachten from German, and then you have a lot of very similar names in the Romance languages. They all mean birth. So, you've got Noël in French. We sometimes use Noel. We talk about the first Noel, which is the birth of Jesus Christ, little baby. Then you got Navidad, which is the Spanish, and Natale, which is Italian. And they all come from the Latin natalis, which means birth. Other fun ones, the Japanese for Christmas is Christmasu.
Oh, I love it. That's adorable.
It's the English one.
They also have Santa-san, right?
Do they?
I think so. I think that is the name for Santa. I hope I'm correct.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, that is just Santa. And then San is just a way of being polite to anyone, right? You just put that after someone's name. So they're calling him Santa too. Oh, great. I really enjoy their takes on English words. We talked about these before as well. The Russian word for Christmas is Rождество, which means a festival of the birth of Christ. Then you've got the Swahili, which is Christmasi, which is nice and fun. But the one that I find really interesting is the Arabic term for Christmas, because you might not immediately associate Arabic with Christmas, but it is Eid al-Milad, which means, feast of the birth. And you can put that alongside the other two famous Eids of Islam, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. And then you've got Eid al-Milad, which is the Christian celebration of the birth of Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know. I like interpretations of Christmas around the world. They're always very fun.
Yeah, another good one actually is the Greek term for Christmas, which has a good etymology to it, as in the modern Greek term, which is Christoyena. Right, that yena bit at the end is like the Genna that is our source of words like gender, genre, generation. It's Jenna, it's the generation of something, the birth of something. So the Greek name means Christ birth.
That's very cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Ho, ho, ho!
Let's talk about some Christmas critters. Why don't we? Both physical and imaginary, or magical, you might say. First of all, some of the more iconic ones are reindeer, right?
Yeah, they are, and they've got names apparently.
Can you name all of them off the top of your head?
Okay, you've got Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Blitzen, Comet, Cupid,
Dasher.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mean, when we say we're naming them, this is just what one poet has claimed they were called, right? The author or the poet behind what's known as "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," but a poem actually called "A Visit from St. Nicholas." I'm not saying straight up the name of that poet, because actually it's disputed who wrote that poem. There are two potential people, which I'll get into, but we have that little section that goes, "More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen."
But
go on.
Donner wasn't originally Donner, right? In the original version of the poem, it is Dunder to match Blitzen, so thunder and lightning.
No, not quite.
Wait, no?
What it is that it was Dunder, the Dutch word for thunder, and Bliksem, which was the Dutch word for lightning. And those got changed to the German words Donner and Blitzen via Donder, which some people still say when they recite this poem. I don't know if you've ever noticed it, but it was only very briefly Donder. And this is at the very center of the controversy over who wrote this poem, because it was originally published anonymously, but then the first time that it was published with the name of a poet, it was attributed to a guy called Clement Clarke Moore, right? He said, I put this in the collections, it's by me. But then the family of a fellow called Henry Livingston Jr. came forward and said, hold on, no, our Henry wrote this one. Now, what's the significance of Donner and Blitzen, or Dunder and Bliksem in this whole thing? Well, the fact that one of these men was of Dutch descent and one of them was of German descent.
Oh, amazing.
Is at the center of the controversy. So it is Clement Clarke Moore who changes the names from the Dutch versions, Dunder and Bliksem, to Donner and Blitzen via Donder. And I guess if you're being cynical, you'd say that was to try and sort of firm up his claim to being the author of this poem. However, on the other side of it, Henry Livingston Jr.'s family can point to the Dutchness of the original poem when they say, our guy wrote it.
I would watch a Christmas movie about that drama.
Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it?
Right?
It might just be a lot of people writing angry letters. I don't know how much action there is involved. But yeah, it's quite, linguistically, it's interesting.
You have to have like a fantastical Christmas twist of some kind.
As long as by the end of it, they all learn the true meaning of Christmas, then I think we've got a hit.
Listen, facts have never gotten in the way of fun on Christmas.
So those are the sort of the controversial reindeer. The rest of the names are kind of self-explanatory. But can you tell us about the word reindeer itself? Because the etymology is not as obvious as it seems.
Right. It's almost a little bit of an eggcorn, like embedded in English for after a long period of time, because the rein here is not originally, it doesn't refer to the ability of reindeer to be harnessed, which they can be better than other wild deer for whatever reason. But the rein here is from the Old Norse rein, which was a word for a reindeer, sometimes presented as a compound, reindiri, meaning reindeer animal, because deer was a word for an animal. And the rein here is probably a reference to their antlers, which both males and females have, though some of the males have like gigantic ones that they shed before Christmas. Hence, if you're going to depict Santa with reindeer, they're probably all girls if they have antlers. And while English figured out how to spell the Norse word, which was H-R-E-I-N-N, it went through a bunch of different spellings in English, including reindeer, spelled like rain from the sky, and range deer, because they travel over long distances. And we settled on reindeer because they are, in fact, pretty good in a harness. And as early as the 1700s, we have quotes in English saying that reindeer are the creature in that Nordic countries supplies the want of horses.
Right. Mm-hmm. And reindeer are caribou, right?
Yes,
they're the
same species. Caribou means like paw or scratcher because they've been observed digging in the snow to access food. And that's a Native American or Canadian French and Micmac word.
Oh, that's cute. Mm-hmm. I'm glad you were just armed with that knowledge there. I really sort of threw you a curveball. You caught it. Can we talk about some more Christmas critters?
Can we go for a more fantastical one? Like an elf?
Oh, yeah. Tell me about elves.
Yes, indeed, elves. So the word elf was not specifically associated with Christmas and Santa or his predecessors until 1823, also in A Visit from St. Nicholas, that same poem. But the poem didn't actually mention toy-making elves. It called Santa himself a jolly old elf, simply suggesting that he's an elf-like fellow because he's magical and joyful. It would appear that the contemporary Christmas elf began to appear around the 1850s in American literature. Little Women author Louisa May Alcott briefly mentioned Christmas elves in her children's short story, A Christmas Dream and How It Came to Be. And then in 1857, Harper's Weekly published an uncredited poem called The Wonders of Santa Claus, which details Santa's workshop. And this is where we're really getting our elves, our great many elves at work, all working with their might to make a million of pretty things, cakes, sugar plums, and toys to fill the stockings hung up, by the little girls and boys. And then in 1873, modern Christmas elves appeared in an illustration on the cover of Godey's Ladies' Book, which was a highly influential women's magazine. And we have some images of the time, typically in magazines, of Santa with toys and elves. But an elf is a very old concept, right? In Old English, your average elf was more on the naughty list than the nice list. They were imp-like creatures blamed for mischief and mayhem. And then at the same time, another word for like a nightmare was called an elfadel, which was like elf sickness. And then elf sogotha was an elf cough or heartburn.
Yeah, we discussed before how the German word for a nightmare is still an elf dream, essentially.
Right. And then in Beowulf, elves are on a list of like monstrous races having sprung from Cain's murder of Abel and therefore despised by God.
Good grief. It sounds like Santa's doing us a favor by keeping these guys busy.
I mean, in the defense of happy and pleasant elves, the root of the Proto-Germanic root of elf might mean white, which means it might be related towards like albino and alp. And that is evident in Norse myths, which describe fair elves, which appear in Edmund Spenser's works and, of course, in Tolkien's works.
And that would make them related to Albus Dumbledore, the name Albus Dumbledore, which means white bumblebee. And also another name for Britain is Alba, and that also comes from the Latin for white, probably because of the white cliffs of Dover that greet you when you arrive. Would never have thought that got anything to do with elves. That's blown my mind a little bit.
I mean, the extent to which it has something to do with them might mostly just be the linguistic root connection there.
Yeah, but it just shows how these strange forks in the road can appear as we trace our words back as far as we can take them.
Speaking of which, I mentioned that elves belong on the naughty list. And speaking of forks in the road, naughty and nice, as we may have touched on previously, did not originally resemble the words that they are today in their meaning. The word naughty went from neutral to negative, and nice went from knowing nothing to neat and neighborly, right?
Right, yeah, it's a bit more like naive was to be nice, wasn't it? And now
It went through a whole journey. Like in the 1200s, nice meant foolish or ignorant. In the 1300s, it meant fussy and fastidious. 1400s, dainty and delicate. 1500s, precise and careful. 1700s, agreeable and delightful. And 1800s, kind and thoughtful.
And now a delicious biscuit. Do you have nice biscuits or nice
We
biscuits?
do not,
over
but
in
I've
the
had
States?
them.
Yum, 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 yum. I actually genuinely don't know if they must be named after the place Nice, right? They must be.
Your guess is as good as mine on that one.
I don't know. I don't know why nice biscuits are called nice biscuits.
Now, as for naughty, I believe we've addressed before that it literally means nothing-y. To be naughty is to have nothing. And this word went through the process we've discussed called pejoration, where a word becomes more intense and less pleasant over time in its meaning. Same thing happened to the word like villain, which was just a word for a peasant or a poor farmer, and evolved to mean
Right.
the bad guy because people started using it as an insult, sort of like calling someone white trash or having nothing, and being sort of low class. Same idea with naughty.
Okay. So wait, which one do we actually want to be then? Naughty or nice?
Originally, being naughty and not having anything, depending on your morals in terms of like the stories around Christmas, I would say you don't want to be naughty necessarily, but you also don't want to be nice.
But the naughty would therefore be a little bit more in need of a present, I would say.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he should be delivering presents to the naughty and ignoring the nice.
Ooh, you have a point.
Yeah, that's my new politically correct take. Spread it.
This is our hot
People
take.
really angry.
The naughty really deserve presents more than the nice do. Santa's such a jerk, taking away stuff from the naughty kids.
He's taking a list of poor people and deliberately not giving them anything they want.
Warm yourself up with this coal, you brats. Now that we're on the irreverent side of Christmas, I think we should probably talk about mistletoe.
Yeah, we should do because it's sort of sticky etymology going on here. Tell us about mistletoe.
Well, first of all, I have a joke for you, which we've already ruined the punchline, but if athletes get athlete's foot, what do astronauts get?
Oh, I see.
Yes, precisely. They get
Mistletoe.
mistletoe.
Very good. Very good. But the toe at the end of mistletoe isn't actually anything to do with the end of your foot, right?
Right. There are no toes in mistletoe, and there are no missiles in mistletoe either, except for the plant originally called missile, which was a word for a variety of plants, all resembling mistletoe as it is today, and sometimes resembling basil. It could also be a word for basil. But ultimately, the idea here, mistletoe is connected to missel thrushes, birds who like mistletoe and the fruit from them, right?
Right. And the toe bit, it was originally actually mistletoe, and it was an Old English word tan that meant a twig. So it's a missel twig. And actually where the missel ultimately comes from is a little bit sort of murky. It's Germanic, people reckon. And a lot of the evidence points to it referring to some sort of sticky substance, either the sticky substance emitted by the berries if you burst them, or the sticky substance that they sometimes grow in, the sticky substance that's emitted by the bird itself. We're talking about bird poo.
The OED figures the root of missile here is urine, means urine. So
with birds, it's the same thing, right? They do not think, oh, I'm off for a number 1 or a number 2, right? It's all just coming out at the same time. You know, I thought I'd never seen mistletoe growing in the wild until someone pointed up into a tree and said, you see that big ball of bush that's just in this tree that doesn't look like it should be there? It looks like it's some sort of nest. That is mistletoe. And I didn't realize that it just sort of grows independently in globules, in balls up in the trees. And yeah, it looks like, I don't know, a squirrel's nest, a squirrel's dray or whatever. But no, look up and it's mistletoe, and you can have a good snog underneath it if you fancy it.
The logic I read in at least one source is that the fruit of the mistletoe plant is popular among mistle thrushes, and therefore they propagate it through their waste. Though there's also some speculation that like you would put a sticky substance on a twig that they like in order to catch one, and all manner of things.
There's a bit of a chicken egg thing going on there, though, with the mistle thrush, or a thrush egg thing. Is it named for the food it likes, or is the food it likes named after it? That's the confusion.
Sadly, we do not know. But you can remember that next time you want to kiss under the piss twig. So next up, let's get a little musical, shall we? One of the best things about Christmas is the carols, right?
Oh, yeah, I do love it when the carol singers come round and I have to stand there awkwardly as they finish.
Definitely.
Go on, where does Carol come from then? Because it's not just a woman's name, right?
Right. In English, it was originally a word for any kind of joyful song, typically one that you would sing or have sung to you while dancing in a ring at a party. In Old French, carol meant circle dancing with singing. And then it's probably ultimately from the Greek words like choros, which meant chorus, or perhaps specifically from choradis, which would be a flute player who accompanies the choral dance in theater. Yeah,
and there's also this sort of link to rings and roundness that's implied by the word as well, which would mean it's associated with words like corona and crown, which are in turn related, or corolla, which is also sort of a round head dress. And you have this carol, this ring dance that eventually gives its name to the singing that happens at the same time.
That's kind of nice. What are your favorite Christmas carols, if you have any?
I enjoy blasting them all out. What's my favorite? Ding Dong Merrily on High.
Oh, that one's a cute one. And it's classic too. Like that's a nice old one. I'd say for the traditional ones, I'm partial to like God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen and Good King Wenceslas for the vibe, mostly the sound more than the song, the tune itself.
Names don't get much harder than Wenceslas, though, do they? Another word that's kind of similarly confusing is frankincense, if I can take us in that direction.
Oh, sure,
just briefly, because I thought I'd look this up, what it actually means.
It's not a reanimated corpse monster that you give Jesus for Christmas.
No, it isn't. But the name is actually arguably more blatant than that, because frank incense is frank incense. It is a type of incense that is considered frank. And now we use the word frank to mean honest nowadays, but it also has a slightly older sort of meaning that is like sort of true. It just means that it's a really good incense.
Is it affiliated with the Franks?
It's definitely related, yeah.
Now, what about myrrh?
Oh yeah, myrrh, one of the few examples of an apparently vowel-less word, right? If you just take A, E, I, O, and U as vowels, but clearly Y is a vowel, because otherwise we can't have myrrh and we can't have rhythm. And myrrh, yeah, it's just another gum resin, a bit like frankincense, and it was called murra in Latin, which was spelled in a perfectly sensible way, M-U-R-R-A. Our weird M-Y-R-R-H spelling reflects a Germanic pronunciation of the letter Y, that sort of sound that we don't really have in English, but we do have it in that word myrrh. I interrupted you talking about carols. Did you have more on carols? I'm sorry.
Well, I thought we should do one particular carol, as you might call it. Whether it's a Christmas carol or a Christmas song is kind of up to you. But in a previous episode, we mentioned that there's another bird known for its, shall we say, inappropriate behavior.
It's emissions.
Right, it's emissions. That would be the partridge, the fart bird, so called for the sound its wings make as it takes off. And that's the main character in a song with lots of fun etymology magic to unlock. So let's do the 12 days of Christmas, shall we?
Yeah, we should do, yes, because what festive season isn't improved by receiving a fart bird in the bush, a partridge in a pear tree. Yeah, there are a few funky bird etymologies in this one. Strange terms like, here's one, the collie birds, which some people say calling birds, but it's not calling birds.
I think that's misunderstanding collie, which was the original word.
Yeah, because we're talking about the European blackbird, which was black, as the name suggests, and collie is the same as the word coley, really. It's the coal-coloured birds, the collie birds. The turtle doves are also nothing to do with reptiles. They are tur birds, tur doves. It's
their sound.
Yes, this cooing, which is actually arguably more adorable than a turtle dove. And then the French hens are called French hens because of the Latin name for chickens, which is Gallus gallus, which is very similar to a term that's used to refer to French people, refer to them as Gallic.
My understanding is also that French hens were particularly prized for being delicious and big around this time. So you would want a French hen because it's tasty and huge.
I actually like that explanation more because I think mine sounds a little bit sort of overworked. Yeah, it's a bit far removed, isn't it? But anyway, this is one of the explanations for why French hens are in there.
So the song, by the way, it's pretty old. The actual 12 days of Christmas is the span between Christmas Day and Epiphany on January 6th. Period of rest, feasting, gathering. So you would be, merrymaking and giving your loved ones a large pile of things they may or may not want, as listed in the song. But the song is probably, so it dates back to, in English, the 1780 book Mirth Without Mischief, which you can find in its full text with some minor differences, but it's probably older. Like there are French variations of similar songs, like Les 12 mois, which means the 12 months. So, we have a variety of this song throughout the years, but surprisingly, like the version that we sing now is pretty close to the one that we saw in the 1700s. It was English composer Frederick Austin who kind of gave us the modern version of the melody and the lyrics, including the kind of big, 5 gold rings, where you really go all out on that particular line. It's really excited about that one. We could remember that one if nothing else. But there is also an internet theory, and probably predates the internet, but not by much, that each of the 12 days connect an element of Christianity to the gifts, like the 2 turtle doves or the Old and New Testaments. And the myth here is that each of these 12 days was supposed to help Christians learn and pass on the tenets of their faith while avoiding persecution, which this is exactly what you would receive from someone in a chain letter, is this explanation. So
I don't remember Jesus mentioning a fart bird.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And Christmas Carol historians, which they do exist, one of them is named William Studwell. He said it's not originally a religious song, and if there is any connection to religious imagery, it was a reverse engineering of the original secular song.
Right, but it's sufficient to say that it's religious insofar as those 12 days are set out in Christianity.
You are celebrating a religious holiday, right?
Yeah, it's Christian enough. Don't worry, it's Christian enough.
So this has been a merry time, and I'm looking forward to celebrating a Merry Christmas. I'm glad we got to do this merry and happy and joyous podcast episode together. Speaking of which, the origin of the word merry is purely delightful. May I tell you about it?
Nah, actually. Yeah, please do. I won't be a Merry Christmas Grinch.
Oh man, we should talk about Grinch. Maybe another time.
Maybe sometime around this time next year.
Oh no. Look forward in exactly 1 year. Anyway, merry is from a Proto-Germanic root meaning short lasting, which is quite nice because it implies the notion of something pleasant making time fly. And the word mirth is a noun form of merry, so it's made in the same fashion as like true and truth, or strength and strong. So merry is to mirth as strong is to strength. And that th ending, which we've talked about before, makes nouns out of adjectives.
Like long and length. We love these. Broad
sure
and breadth. These are wonderful. Thank you so much, Jess, for everything this year, but also, for making us have such a merry time while making this podcast. I wish you much mirth. I wish our viewers and listeners much mirth this Yuletide, and we'll see you in the new year.
This show has been such a gift, so I'm so grateful that we get to do this together every week, and that we get to talk to all these wonderful folks who are as excited as we are about the wonder and magic of word origins.